Students, in the previous class we have done revision up till how to track the social differences through burials and through the items or the artifacts which they were using, which we were dividing into utilitarian and luxuries. Okay, so today we would be doing the revision of the next topics. Okay, like the first topic then is finding out about craft production. As for craft production, Chanundaro is a very important place. It is very small, the settlement is very strong, small, but all the craft production basically it happens over here only. More artifacts have been found over here. See, locate Chandaro on map this. This is a tiny settlement, less than 7 hectares as compared to the Mohenjo-daro, almost exclusively devoted to craft production. And what types of things were made? Bead making, shell cutting, metal working, shield making, and weight making. Okay, weight making means to make the weights, because in Harappan civilization they were having measuring weights. They used to measure ornaments, that how much gram it considered. Okay, so at that time the weight making procedure was there. The variety of materials used to make beads are remarkable. They were using materials, like stones, like in stones, carline were there, jasper, crystal, quartz. Then in metals also they were using like copper, bronze, and gold. Then shell and faience and terracotta, burnt clay. They were all used to make the craft. Anything like that. Some beads were made up of two or more stones cemented together, some of with the gold caps. And now also it is in fashion that the two beads are there, and on that the gold cap is there. Okay, the shapes were numerous: dish shaped, cylindrical, spherical, barrel shaped, segmented. Some were decorated by incising or painting. Some had designs sketched onto them. Now see, if we correlate with the current terms, we are at that time also they were having those things. Okay, different beads collections were there, with different designs on it. Okay, now techniques for making beads differ according to the material. It is but obvious that the technique of the beads will depend upon the material. Some materials are very soft, some are hard. If the materials are soft, they can easily make beads from that, and the material is hard, then it is difficult. And while it is difficult, so the proper shapes cannot be prepared from that hard material. Okay, so cetatite is a very soft stone, was easily worked. Some beads were moduled out of paste with the cetatite powder. This permitted making variety of shapes. As I have told you that when the material is soft, it is very easy for them to make different shapes of beads. But when it is hard, it is but obvious that it is very difficult to attain those shapes which we want. Okay, how the cetatite microbead was made was a puzzle for archaeologists. But after doing so much excavation, archaeologists, they were puzzled that how was at that time cetatite microbeads were formed, because in microbeads they are very small. So it was a puzzle to them that how they were making such a small beads. Now archaeologists experiment have revealed that red color of carline was obtained by firing yellowish raw material and beads at various stages of production. Nodules were chipped into rough shapes. As when we have to make something, we have to chop that material. After chopping, what you will do? Then you will be grinding that. Then what? Then polishing that. And afterwards, you will be drilling. Okay, the same thing happen here also. Grinding, polishing, drilling complete the process. Now, specialized drills have been found in Chanundaro, Lothal, and more recently at Dholavira. Over there, in these places, specialized drills have been found. Now, drills are made up of what? They are made up of basically stone, hard stone, so that it could cut the beads. If you locate Nageshwar and Balakot on map, you will notice that both the settlements are near the coast. Now see over here, the Nageshwar and Balakot, they are near the coast. Why so? As they are near, See, if we see any of the craft production, basically it is very easy to judge that they are basically near rivers. Why so? So that the transportation could takes place. These were specialized centers for making shell objects, including bangles, ladles, and inlay, which were taken to other settlements. Okay. Now, similarly, it is likely that the finished products such as beads from Chanandaru and Lothal were taken to the urban centers, and from the urban centers, they were taken means from the specialized centers. The final product was taken to the urban centers such as Mohenjo-daro, Harappa. Okay, and sometimes they over here also they have a craft production, but not as if they are not so specialized as in urban centers they are having, because in the like if you take an example of Nageshwar, Balakot, there the resources they are getting resources very easily. So over there only the things are made and then exported to the urban places. Okay, now identifying centers of production. Now how could you identify the centers of production that over here, at this point of time or at this place the production was happening? Why so, how can you identify? It is but obvious that through raw materials which are scattered over there, to waste materials basically the scattered, because everything is not utilized in making the beads or making anything. So some parts of it are are basically waste. If the waste is suppose if the waste is a big stone of anything, a big raw material, then it can be made into simple, into a smaller form, but tiny particles are then also left around. So we can get from that there would be an center of production over there. So in order to identify centers of craft production, archaeologists usually look for the following: raw material such as stone nodules, whole shells, copper ore, tools, unfinished objects. Okay, means unfinished objects because everything they are making are not finished, because they found any demerit or anything wrong in that, so they left those craft actually. Okay, unfinished object rejects and waste material. In fact, waste is one of the best indicator of craft work. For instance, if shell or stone is cut into make objects, then the pieces of these material will discarded as waste as the place of production. Okay. Now we'll move towards strategies for procuring materials. Now for procuring materials, as there are two types of materials. First, local materials which are easily available over there only, and some materials they have to export from the other countries or other places of that civilization. Okay, so if they are having if they are exporting the things from the places nearby their centers, so they will use land for transportation. Okay, they'll use the land route only, and for that there are evidences found that terracotta model of bullock cart has been found, and by seeing that we can assume that at that time they were using the bullock carts for the land transportation. Okay, then they are using river tributaries also for the transportation. Now materials from the subcontinent and beyond, there are many materials which are actually taken from the subcontinent. Like Harappa procure materials of craft production various ways. For instance, they established settlement at Nagashwar and Balakot area where shells are available. See, whenever any you can say any place is just planned for suppose for craft production, then that place should be near to the river, then it should be near to the raw material. Okay, due to these reasons, like in Nageshwar and Balakot, we found shell. So over there, shell specialized centers are made over there. All the things made up of shell would be made over there only. Over such sites where Shotagui in far Afghanistan near the best source of lapis lazuli, a blue stone, we have learned in Mesopotamia also that they were in the Waka head, the blue stone is lapis lazuli only. That was apparently very high valued, and Lothal, which was near sources of Karleen, cetatite from Rajasthan, and metal from also Rajasthan. because copper, in Harappa civilization, they are not having good quality of copper. Okay, so they are taking copper from Rajasthan, Khetri region, that is. Okay, moving to forward, then we have contact with distant land. Now see over here through this in this map, this is Mesopotamia, Dilmun, Magan, and over here Meluha. Meluha is actually in Mesopotamian text. Meluha is referred to Harappa. Okay, Magan is referred to Oman. Dilmun is same Mesopotamia, we all know. So they are having trade links through water. Okay, now, what is the proof that they are having that Harappan civilization are having trade link with Magan or Oman? Because the proof is that both the artifacts found in Magan and Harappa, they are having traces of nickel. Okay, and in Harappa, as we know that over there they do not produce any copper. We do not find, so they might be have taking one copper they are taking from the Khetri region, and the second with the traces of nickel they are taking from Oman. So hence it is proved that they were having contacts. Okay, then in Mesopotamian text also it has been mentioned. See, refer to the copper coming from a region called Magan. Over in text also it has been referred, perhaps a name Oman, and interestingly enough, copper found Mesopotamian sites also contain traces of nickels, and they were having Mesopotamia also having trade links with Magan. Now, other archaeological finds suggestive of long distance contact include Harappan seals, weight, dice, and beads. In this context, it's worth noting that Mesopotamian texts mention contact with regions named Dilmun, probably the island of Bahrain, Magan, and Meluha, possibly the Harappan region. Okay, now they mention the products from the Meluha. Now, what were the things they used to take? All the things have been mentioned in Mesopotamian texts, that they were taking these things from Meluha, means they were having trade links with Harappa. Like the things are like carline, lapis lazuli, copper, gold. Okay, so hence proof that they were having trade links. Okay, so in Mesopotamian texts, one more thing that Meluha is considered as they refer to as land of seafarers. Okay, now these are the seals on that which depicts, see over here, cylindrical seal. It is a seal of Mesopotamia, and they are having image like the seals which Harappans were having. So you can consider that they are having contact, because of that only they are able to know what type of motives they are having, and they have copied that. Okay, now seal scripts and weights. About seals, it's very easy. These all part comes under, you can say, literature, because up till now it has been not been deciphered in a language. Now seals and sealings were used to facilitate long distance communication. Image of a bag of a imagine a bag of good being sent to one place to another, as seals help in just checking out that the things which they are exporting from one place to another, are they in the proper position or not. It might be that in between, it somebody has opened that packet, so due to which they used to put seals. Okay, and those seals are basically the, you can say, proof from where they are coming. Okay, and if those seals have not been touched, okay, if their images or whatever it's written over there, if they are intact, that means the parcel which they are sending are in the good format. They have not been disturbed anywhere. Now, an enigmatic script, Harakkam script is an enigmatic script. Why so? Because it has not been deciphered. They do not, Harappan script, they do not have too many signs. They have only 26 signs. But we, as compared to Mesopotamian text, they have many signs, and they have written actually, um, they are actually very long also. Okay, although the script remains undeciphered to date, it was evidently not alphabetical, as it has just too many signs. Somewhere around 375 to 400 signs are there. Okay, but the largest script, you can say, is of 26 signs only. Okay, it is apparently that the script was written from right to left. To some seals show a wider spacing on the right and cramping on the left. Okay, now script we have understood. Now about the weights. Now exchanges were regulated by the precise system of weights, usually made up of stone called chert and generally cubical with no marking. And then you will find that a cubical shape, a cubical shape. Chert was actually a stone is there, and that no marking was there. So nowadays we have marking on the weights, basically 2 kg, 1 kg, but they do at that time they do not have. Okay, low dominations of weights were binary, like 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, etc., up to 12,800, while the higher dominations a decimal system. Now over here, see, smaller weights are probably used for what? The jewelry, beads, and higher for what? Clothes and food. Okay. Now ancient authority. Now in this topic, they are just discussing that if the Harappan civilization is so urbanized, if everything is so uniform, their drainage system, their bricks were in same ratio. So if all the things, their houses, their each and every planning shows that there might be a ruler, there might be someone on whose order they are working. Okay, so different scholars, they have different views on that. Now some says, see over here, uh, a large building found at Mohenjo-daro was labeled as a palace, but the by the archaeologists, but no spectacular finds were associated with it. Now, someone is considering that the large means in citadel, the large buildings are the palace of the king. Okay, they are considering it, so there might be a prince at that time, king at that time. Next, a stone statue was labeled and continued to be known as priest king. This is because archaeologists were familiar with the Mesopotamian history. As in Mesopotamia, the priest king was there, so they are considering that over here also, priest king would be there. Now, but we do not know that he was doing any ritual practices or having a power or not. Okay. Now, some archaeologists have the opinion that Harappan society had no rulers. Now, some think that there are no rulers, everybody is enjoying equal status. Others feel there are no single ruler but several. Means that like Mohenjo-daro is having a single ruler, Harappa is having the other ruler. Okay, like that. Yet others argue that there was a single state given similarity in artifacts, the evidence of planned settlement, the standardized ratio of bricks and establishment. Now see over here, now the next person says that it cannot be. If different rulers are there, then it might be there would be a clash at some point of time, and it might be that they should have something different. But all these artifacts found in Harappan civilization, all the things are uniform, so there might be a single ruler only, and he is only taking care of everything. Okay, now see, as of now, the last theory seems the most plausible, and it is unlikely the entire communities could collectively made and implement each complex decisions. The old community, they were discussing and taking the decisions. Now, for the end of the civilization, there is an evidence that in 1800, most of the mature Harappan sites in regions such as Cholistan has been abandoned. As discussed earlier, students, we know that there are three in Harappan civilization. There are three phases: pre, then means pre means early Harappa, and then mature, and then late Harappa. So in late Harappa, already discussed that all the urbanized thing have been disappeared. Okay, and there are actually many reasons for their disappearance. Some says that the people they have might migrated. Some says that there would be a plague over there due to which they have migrated. Some says that there would be a flood. Okay, some says there would be famine. Okay, some view are there would be a climatic change due to which they have migrated. Okay, but there are also they also say that there might be some invaders have came, might be an atomic explosion would be there. There are n number. In fact, Aryans would be there and they have invaded. There are n number of reasons which are given for the end of the civilization, but up till now nothing has been proved because proved up till now actually. Okay, now discovering the Harappan civilization. As we all know, first site discovered was Harappa. Okay, so due to which Harappan civilization name has been what? Okay, so while discovering Harappa, the archaeologists, they found many difficulties also, and many of the things were done, and they came to conclusion. So Cunningham's, what now we are dealing about the Cunningham confusion. Now see students, being a man, it is psychologically that everything, if we see, we try to correlate with the present term or whatever we are actually aware of. Okay, so Cunningham also, he was when he found the seal, he was actually trying to fit those seal. uh, okay, because he was aware that he was reading the Buddhist or the accounts which were given left by the Chinese Buddhists. Okay, so he was trying to put those coins in between 4 to 7 century only. Okay, and this was the greatest confusion which he had. Now, Cunningham also collected, documented, translated inscriptions found during his surveys. When he excavated sites, he tended to recover artifacts that he thought had the cultural value. A site like Harappa, which was not part of fantasy of Chinese pilgrim, was not known. Because as he was only reading about the Chinese accounts, so Harappan sites have not been written by these pilgrims because they were unknown to them. So they did not fit very neatly within this framework of investigation. So, although Harappan artifacts were found fairly often during the 19th century, and some of these reached Cunningham, he did not realize how old these were. Okay, because as he was putting these into the 4th to 7th century, he was not able to realize that before this also any history would be there. A Harappan seal was given to Cunningham by an Englishman. He noted, okay, this I have told, this was because he, like many others, through that Indian history began with the first cities of Ganga Valley. Okay, so he was basically concentrated in the history between 4th to 7th century, and he was trying to put those seals in between that, but it was not possible basically. Now, a new old civilization. Now, what happened? Many archaeologists, they came, they started doing excavation. Okay, and they have done mistake also. What type of mistake they did? That they do not, like John Marshall, he did not realize the importance of stratification. Okay, what he did, he only just think that if I'm digging one place, this place whole, if I have explained you with the diagram, if you remember, suppose in this picture, this square box, you can say, suppose Marshall has started digging this, okay, all the things which are found under this square box will be considered, he was considering for one period, but it is not like that, because whenever we used to read history, obviously the things which are at the lowest data, okay, it will be the oldest one. And then if at the second level, when suppose at the ground level we are marking it L, okay, then the second level L1, so L1 would be after that. But what he was doing, he was considering L1, L2 all in one strata only. So it was a blunder which he was doing, and that blunder was corrected by R.E.M. Wheeler. He was also Director General of ASI in 1944. Okay, and afterwards, and one more important thing, students, that during this time, during 19th century itself, many of the sites which were found in India were found. Why so? Because during partition, what they find, that Indians, that many of the sites, they would be under Pakistan. So over here also they started digging, so that we should have that glory. Okay, and when the through excavation, when we found those places, it promoted the nationalism also. People were aware that how glorified they were. Okay, Now problems piecing the past. Now what are the problem to piece the past? Like, see students, and rough, I'm just telling you that whenever I have we used to see something, we used to check whether firstly it depends on the place, at the place where we got that thing. Suppose an archaeologist, he found scandal corn, he found pottery, he found altars, okay, fire altars, and like these things he found at some place. So what will he consider? He'll consider, first thing in his mind, he'll consider that might be here be a kitchen. Okay, understood. So like that they used to excavate, so they used to correlate with the present context. But then also, many things we do not know for which purpose they were actually doing, because up till now writing has not been deciphered. Okay, now understanding of the function of an artifact is often shaped by its resemblance with the present day things like beads, coins, stone blades, pots. Okay, archaeologists also try to identify the function of artifact by investigating the context in which it was found. Okay, as I have told you that in which context it has been found, according to that the use of the artifact was noted. Okay, now see, the problems of interpretation, basically they are talking about the religion part. Okay, the problem of archaeological interpretation are perhaps most evident in construct the religious practices, because in Harappan civilization we do not find any temple. Okay, so what type of religion they were following? Because in Harappa, through seals, we get to know that Pashupati sign was there. One person was sitting. A picture is given over here. See, in 1.27, Proto Shiva is, it's known as Proto Shiva seal. One person is sitting. He has three faces, and over there, a tiger. And he's surrounded by animals. So he is considered as Proto Shiva. Okay, then fire altars have been found in Kalibangan and Lothal. Then there is Great Bath in Citadel, which is considered that it was used for ritual purpose. Okay, then we find amulets over there, which shows that they were superstitious. Okay, then we find mother goddesses also. So there are many things, many animals motifs we found, like unicorn. Oh, okay. At that time, we found people tree also. Swastik sign was also there. So all the things, lingas were also there. Okay. So there are many things which which prove that because we are correlating with the current context, and all the things we are using in now a time for religious thing only. We used to worship people tree. Okay, we used to make swastik while any rituals. Okay, so all the things we are using now. So we are considering, so that we are considering that at that time they were also using those things only. Okay. Now let us look, for instance, the Proto-Shiva seals, the earliest religious texts, the Rig Veda, mention a god named Rudra, which is named used for Shiva in later Puranic traditions. However, unlike Shiva, Rudra in the Rig Veda is neither depicted as Pashupati, lord of animals in general and cattle in particular, known as a yogi. In other words, this depiction does not match the depiction of Rudra in Rig Veda. See, now what they are doing, they are correlating it, the text in the Rig Veda. Okay, so in this possibly a shaman, as some scholars have suggested. Okay, shamans are what? Who are the man and woman who claim magical and healing powers, as well as the ability to communicate with the other world. So by this you can say that Harappans, they were superstitious also. Okay, so by this we end the chapter. See students, over here the lingas, over here see the chairs, the stones are there, and this is actually archaeologists get confused that was this a gamesman or the lingas, because shivling is like that, is like this only. Okay, by this we came to an end of this revision. This chapter is very important students, so read it in a proper way, and do not mug up, because sometimes in history they used to ask analytical question, so concept should be clear. Okay, and please try to correlate it, think logically
while reading history also. Thank you. Have a nice day.